Hello, good evening. If there was any doubt about the profound impact of the virus pandemic here in Britain, it surely is over tonight. The government's economic forecaster suggesting the country faces its greatest recession in more than 3 centuries. That followed the release of official data revealing there were more deaths during the week before last than in any week for at least 15 years. Well, 12,107 people have now died from coronavirus in hospital in the UK, an increase of 778 on the figure recorded yesterday. For the first time, we have a picture of deaths outside hospital. Official data is showing that 1 in 10 coronavirus-related deaths had happened in the community. And there was that stark warning over the economy that it could shrink by 35%, more than a third, over the next 3 months. Our economics editor Ed Conway reports on the scale of the virus's impact.
A crisis for public health, a crisis for the economy. The government's economic forecaster today spelling out an apocalyptic scenario. 2 million unemployed and the economy shrinking more than in the financial crisis.
These are tough times, and there will be more to come. As I've said before, we can't protect every business and every household.
I'm wondering whether the hardship might have to continue after this if we have such a high level of debt that the UK economy is going to look slightly different than it was only a few months ago.
Obviously, we'll have to take stock of public finances and the economy and make the right decisions at that point. And I've talked before about doing whatever we need to right the ship at that point. But what I would say is that we remain very committed to the agenda that we set out before, which was about levelling up and spreading opportunity around this country. And indeed, I believe that can still be a critical part of how we get back to normal.
Was that a first hint of the need for a new economic manifesto once this is all over? Today, the Office for Budget Responsibility sketched out a scenario of a 12.8% fall in UK economic output this year. That's a bigger one-year fall than in the financial crisis, World War II or World War I or the Spanish influenza, the deepest slump, in fact, since 1709. The good news is the OBR thinks the economy could bounce back with a whopping 17.9% growth next year. The bad news is that the International Monetary Fund thinks actually we could all be left worse off permanently.
The pandemic may not recede in the second half of this year, leading to longer containment periods, worsening financial conditions, and further breakdowns in global supply chains. In such cases, global GDP will fall even further.
At ground level, it's clear that life for most businesses has changed forever. Even fortunate ones like this one, a catering business which has pivoted into making standalone sinks for the NHS, are still struggling.
If it was not for this product, we wouldn't be working at the moment. I would have had to furlough all of the staff. I've got a lot of concerns about the future market. We're watching cash flow on a daily basis, and this is all because of the uncertainty in the future. We're currently estimating that our sales will be down at about 45% of what we saw in January and February.
There are millions of stories like this. Businesses whose income has dropped, sometimes to zero. Businesses which may not survive another few months of lockdown, heightening Downing Street's dilemma.
In effect, the government is caught between 2 sets of horrific statistics, both of which have come into sharper focus. On the one hand, you've got mortality numbers, the highest number of weekly deaths from any cause in the past decade and a half, at least. But the more the government tries to push down on those through the lockdown, the more it runs into the other horrific statistics. Potentially the worst year for the economy in a century, maybe 3 centuries, according to the Office for Budget Responsibility. So as it considers whether to extend the lockdown, it's pretty clear there are no easy decisions here.
Yet, those numbers do not lie. There's no doubt now this is a major mortality crisis. No doubt the response is causing an economic crisis. The only doubt now is about how many more lives are damaged by both. Ed Conway, Sky News.